This is the Alternative Investing Advantage podcast from Advanta IRA, where we show you how to explore investments beyond Wall Street and open your eyes to new options for your portfolio. It's time to take control and give yourself the freedom to choose where you invest your money.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of the Alternative Investing Advantage podcast. A little bit later on, we're going to be going into the specifics of how to flip and make big money on mobile homes. It's one of those kind of interesting things that people don't often think about, rehabbing and flipping of something like a mobile home. But our guest today is going to certainly dig into that and show you just how profitable these types of assets and plans can be. So stick around for that. Today on the download, we have some overall good news from the markets. It's been kind of doom and gloom over the past few months on the podcast, but I'm glad to report some good news and some good things coming up. So first off, analysts at banking giant UBS have reported that rent increases, a key factor in what's plaguing inflation in our country and across the world, have begun to level off. While we're still seeing increases in the cost of rents in general, they have been coming down over the past few months. And right now, they're right about 7% going down into about 4% month over month rent increases that we're seeing. So good news for people. They don't expect any type of real stabilization or kind of normalization of rents to come until probably about the beginning of 2024. So we still have a long way to go for that, but it is good to see that some of these things are starting to level off. Now, we haven't certainly been given any type of good news when it comes to tech, but Apple, the smartphone manufacturer and computer manufacturer that everyone knows and loves, had a climbing of 4.4% of their share price today, Monday, 9/12, on very robust pre-orders for their new iPhone 14, which is the largest year-to-date increase from any mega cap stock in the whole of the New York Stock Exchange. So great news for Apple, especially the investors that have been with more tech-heavy portfolios, investing in things like the S&P 500. It's definitely very good. Stock indexes in general are up across the board, with the S&P 500 being the biggest gainer so far, being propped up on the performance of Apple. However, this is kind of an interesting thing to bring up because the Federal Reserve is going to expected to be releasing CPI, or Consumer Pricing Index data, which is the key measure of inflation in the nation, tomorrow. However, it is generally thought that this is going to be good news, that we're going to see some stabilization or reduction in the just crazy increases of inflation that we've been seeing almost all year, and well, really since COVID happened in the beginning of 2020. So it's definitely some good news being expected to be released tomorrow. But again, with these kind of things, especially with the Fed being very tight-lipped, it's kind of unclear. If the report is bad, it could have some very bad rippling effects through the same stock indexes. But right now, people smarter than me and smarter than a lot of us are kind of pointing to the fact that this is going to be some good news coming out of it. So definitely something to watch, and we'll certainly dig into a little bit farther probably next week for the intro and the download podcast intro for the podcast next week. An interesting one coming out as well on commodities, which we really don't talk about a whole lot, is soybean futures have soared this week, almost 5.4% up on trading today alone, with demand outstripping production for the first time in over 25 years. So soybeans, a very large commercial cash crop. They're used for everything from people eating soy-based products to different food additives to even plastics. I mean, these things are kind of one of those wonder crops that you can use to make almost anything. And the demand is outstripping production. Now, this does have some stuff to do with kind of ongoing conflicts in soybean producing regions, such as Eastern Europe. Obviously, the conflict in Ukraine continuing to labor on with no particular end in sight, and then also very bad weather patterns and some COVID-related issues causing production to kind of wane over the past few years. But the fact that there is still such a high, robust demand and low production means that if you are interested in investing in commodities, that soybeans might be an interesting play right now. Now, going into defense, Lockheed just kind of got snubbed recently by the German government. The defense giant Lockheed Martin, as a big producer producer of missile defense systems, and the German government has opted for Israeli-made missile defenses, causing share prices of Lockheed to go down about 1.5% on trading on Monday. So definitely some interesting things to look at. Not everything being doom and gloom. I'm really happy to kind of report on some good news coming out of the stock markets, and really hoping for some more good news when it comes to what is actually happening with the consumer pricing index report that's going to come out tomorrow. This has been the Download. Today on the what is a memorandum of understanding? A memorandum of understanding is an agreement between two or more parties outlined in a formal document. It's not legally binding, but signals the willingness of both parties to move forward with a contract. Now, this is most often seen in things like large mergers and acquisitions or governmental treaties, and it's one of kind of the key underpinnings of the issues that are going on right now with the Elon Musk lawsuit against Twitter for the buyout that is being attempted to be backed out of right now. So kind of good to understand what a memorandum of understanding is. This has been the What Is. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for being with us today on another edition of the Alternative Investing Advantage podcast. Today, I'm very pleased to welcome with us Mark Bracey. We're going to be talking about investing in mobile homes, but more specifically on rehabbing mobile homes. So the aspect that people maybe don't think about too much when you think about a mobile or manufactured home is rehabbing one. At least a lot of the people on the side of investing in them kind of think of them as, purchasing more of a consumer good, not necessarily, fixing something up to rehab, sell, or, rent it out. So I think it's really an interesting take on it because it can be very lucrative. We've talked about investing in mobile homes in various forms or fashions before on this. So I'd like to bring on someone that specifically deals in rehabbing these things. So Mark, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Most people don't just kind of, pop up out of the ground saying, you know what, I'd like to rehab mobile homes for a living. It's probably something that kind of took a little bit of a trial and error and evolved for you a little bit. And I think that's a really valuable thing for people to take away is, how people evolve into what they are doing now and how they're being successful at it. So give us a little bit of background on yourself and kind of lead us into how you got to where you're at now.
All right. Well, I'm Mark Bracey. I've been flipping these mobile homes for several years. My background is strongly in construction. So I'm from the Northeast Florida area, and I've been in the construction industry since I was about 19 years old. Was managing projects and crews, whatnot, and like that in my early 20s. So I kind of had a knack for it. And over time, I just started managing projects for a contractor that was doing flips for other investors. And those weren't mobile home flips. They were just regular house flips. And, it's kind of, I saw what everyone was doing. I had a really good system to work from to get these things done. And just through my network of friends, I knew and met somebody that, gosh, I had known for a couple of years before I realized that he was even an investor. And I overheard him talking on the phone one day at the gym. And I was like, hey, this guy is actually doing something that I wanted to do for a long time. Because even before the recession, I had an itch to get into real estate and to do these flips and whatnot. I knew I had the ability, but I just didn't know how to get into it. So, I had a conversation with him and asked him, can you show me how you did it? And he was friendly enough, in our group, the kind of groups that we run with and the seminars we go to, we wholly believe that real estate investing is a team sport. So I'm fortunate to be involved with a lot of people that don't keep secrets and don't think that they have the special sauce in their markets. There's well over 1 million homes just in or 1 million people just in the Jacksonville, Florida area. not including the outskirts of that town. So when you kind of boil down the numbers, if I do at my hottest, I was doing between 30 and 40 of these mobile home flips a year. It turns out that there's plenty of food for everybody. And so keeping the secret and on how you're getting deals and the little tips and nuances to getting things done efficiently, so you get a good financial product, like that just doesn't exist in my world. I'm an open book, and I'm glad that I was brought up that way. As far as the getting into mobile homes, it was, my background is in houses. I was in new construction, I was in rehabbing houses, and just came across a deal that was super cheap. It was probably my fourth or fifth rehab project. I had done single family homes before that. And it was one of those deals you just couldn't say no to at the time. And so the numbers made more sense. Yeah, I mean, we're talking a $20,000 purchase price and a 20 grand rehab, and you can sell this thing for 125, 135,000 at the time. So it's kind of a no-brainer to at least give it a shot. I knew there would be some learning curves on it, but I figured those out pretty quick. And I really loved it ever since then. It's, to me, coming from a construction background, I find rehabbing mobile homes actually much easier than houses. There's far fewer mystery in a mobile home than you would have in a house. And I'll give you a good example. You have a house that's built in the 60s or 70s where it's like a slab home where the whole foundation of the home is a concrete slab. It's not built on piers or anything like that. That house likely has cast iron plumbing in my area, and cast iron plumbing is one of those things that it deteriorates over time. It's not an if it'll go bad, it is kind of a when it'll go bad. So anytime you buy a house to flip in that age range, you're rolling the dice, because if you have to go replace cast iron drains in a house like that, I mean, that is thousands and thousands of dollars, and that thousands and thousands of dollars can be the difference between whether or not you can make a deal with the seller or not. So that kind of, you don't have that in mobile homes. All of the mechanicals and whatnot, they're typically run underneath and easy to access. So if there's, I can't think of a time where I've really been surprised and said, oh, this, I didn't know if I was going to open up this wall, if I was going to find, mold or anything like that. We kind of, those problems still exist, but there's just far fewer surprises in a mobile home flip than there is in a single family flip. So once I figured that out just on the first one, I said, dang, I could tell immediately nobody was talking about mobile homes in this manner, especially not in my area. So, I was already starting to, gear up a lot of my own marketing and everything. I'm a big direct mail guy. And I just geared that marketing towards mobile homes in the rural areas around Jacksonville, Florida. And it turns out there's a lot of people that love to live in these homes. We make them very, very nice. So there's no, I like to say we pull the trailer out and we put the home in, meaning we pull out all the mobile home devices, the crappy faucets and the low grade lights. And I mean, we'll even replace outlets and switches, because mobile home outlets and switches are kind of funky sometimes. So we really do the best we can on the inside of the mobile home to make it as close to a traditional single family house that we can. We use all the same supplies, and really the only difference, and that's even going away with these newer ones, is the fact that the walls are a little thinner. The drywall is typically an 1/8 inch thinner on a mobile home than it is in a house. The studs in the walls are typically about an inch thinner in a mobile home versus a house. And once you kind of realize they're all kind of built out of the same stuff, it ends up being really simple at the end of the day. And I really like that about mobile homes, especially when you're doing a bunch of them. The one of the best things about them is the fact that they're basically a rectangle box that is up off the ground, that the vast majority of the builders build them the same way. And the layout may be different inside, but they are still the same rectangle box with the same materials. And that's what I'm getting at when I talk about not having any mystery in a mobile home flip versus a single family home flip.
Yeah, I think that's some really interesting points you brought up. And I like to kind of dig into a few of them. I know, at least from personal experience, I live in St. Pete. My house was built in the early 50s. And I mean, you talk about, I guess the builder having a different mood for the different size windows. I mean, I think this house alone, we have like 7 different size windows in the darn thing. We have, non-standard door. I have like a 22.5-inch doorway into one of the bathrooms going into my house. Like, it's just crazy stuff like that. And, I think anytime that we talk about real estate investing, the simpler you can make anything in life, probably the more successful you're going to be. Just for the fact you have less moving parts, you can focus more of your time, energy, and effort on those individual things. And I've never really kind of, I hear a lot of people talk about, and by no fault, I mean, it's a great thing that these types of properties are less expensive, especially talking about how, and this is a personal opinion of mine, overvalued that a lot of the single family homes are in today's market. I think it's kind of a matter of, and we're starting to see it, price decline. I don't think we're going to see like a halving of this stuff. I think, values have risen and they'll stay up, but, some backing off of just this exorbitant pricing, which was, kind of a direct result of money being free for the most part. But people kind of, focus a lot on price of mobile homes, which is great. They've still been, obviously they're getting more expensive, but kind of a bastion of affordability for the real estate market. And, more people getting more information on saying, hey, these aren't, trailer parks, you get kind of a certain, or trailers get kind of a certain moniker when people think about them, but it's affordable housing at the end of the day. And yes, there can be crummy ones. There can be crummy single family houses. There can be crummy apartments. But, these things can be nice. And, growing up, I grew up in North Florida in the Tallahassee area, and there's a lot of manufactured and mobile homes in places like Wakulla County, Crawfordville. I'm sure you're familiar with, Jefferson County and places like that in North Florida. And I mean, I've walked into some of these things and I had no idea until the guy was like, yeah, we just, had the home delivered. And I was like, this wasn't built. This is a manufactured home. I mean, these things can be extremely nice and they can be rehabbed as such too. And also, maybe kind of shifting back a little bit into gear, but you said you coming from the residential rehab side of things and being able to look at these things saying, hey, it's a rectangular box. Most of these things are standardized, and it also kind of also reduces the amount of things you have to look at. Cast iron plumbing being a great example. It's a big problem, 50s, 60s, dealing with like things like Orangeburg pipe, dealing with cast iron pipe. A lot of these things are going to be relatively standard, and you're going to have some different issues. Maybe, these things all being, frame houses for the most part. Things like in Florida, wood rot from moisture, termites, things like that, that you might not have to deal with in so much in a block house, but still apply here. But you also reduce some of those other overlaps. Now, when it comes to, looking at these, are you mainly identifying and trying to focus on rehabbing these properties that are mobile homes on land? Do you focus, do you get into any of the park issues, or do you just try to stay away from that? And if you do, is it a blend? Can you kind of go in? Because, mobile homes are one of those kind of unique ones where, you buy one, you don't always buy the dirt underneath of it. So, which ones do you kind of focus on more or less than the others?
I prefer mobile homes on land. I'm not averse to a mobile home in a park, but I feel that it is a completely different animal. The level of work we would put into a mobile home in a park, or a mobile home without the dirt, is not the same as a mobile home with land. So what I'm targeting in my area is typically I want to find a mobile home that is late 80s or newer. I used to go down as far as 85, but I'm kind of massaging that upwards right now, to more like 87, 88 to kind of be my line. And that's I've just heard that finding homeowners insurance for 85 and older is a challenge. So, unless something comes to me super duper cheap, I'm kind of looking away from those right now. But my avatar property is an acre, a minimum of an acre of land, a double wide mobile home, late 80s or newer. I prefer them to be 1,200 square foot or larger. And I would like them to be within about a 45-minute commute max to Jacksonville proper. And Jacksonville's a really big geographic area. And we find that, schools are typically better in these areas. Like if you compare a really nice mobile home on land to the same affordability within Jacksonville, you're going to get safer areas, you're going to get better schools, you're going to get a better family environment. And the acre of land for those families that are looking, they're looking for room to roam for their kids. They're looking for, space to park their toys, or, some of these lots that we buy have little ponds on them and things like that. So it is really a very family oriented gig, I think. It, people, I think that's one of the reasons why we fix them up so nice. When the market was really hot, you didn't really have to necessarily do that. And I chose to continue to do top of the line work and give a top of the line product because I want the families that are looking for that space to have something that they're really proud of. And I felt even more strongly when prices were increasing. We kind of have to go with what the market dictates. So, if prices are going up and up and up, like I kind of have to go with that. But I would feel terrible to do the minimum amount of work in a mobile home and sell it for, gobs of money. I really want people to say, look what I got. I want people to say, I just bought this mobile home. You've got to come see it. Let's spend time here,
Mhm.
and have a really great place to raise your family. So that minimum of an acre is really important. And if you can get good square footage above 1,200 is kind of the next hurdle. And then after that, you kind of have passed the litmus test of what a family can be proud to own. And I'm proud to give that to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really great, market. A lot of just, and it's one of those things where I enjoy talking about this subject because it really brings up and hammers home, there's all these people talking about affordable housing and, what we can do. And it's so often kind of focused on like, okay, the apartment avenue like that.
Mhm.
When there's really an avenue for it, for ownership for people, just because it's a mobile home, I mean, dollars to donuts, I'd rather live in a really nice mobile home with an acre of land than be crammed into an affordable housing apartment.
Yeah.
I've lived in those in college, and I'll take a little bit of land over that any day of the week. But it's a good point to bring up, and especially for looking at people like you that these things are on a spectrum. You can get a crummy apartment, get a really nice one, but I think the value you get from a very nice mobile home is significantly better than you get from almost any other type of housing out there right now. And these
Mhm.
things can be extremely nice. Now, obviously, we kind of focused on the model you're looking at. You're looking at, about 1,200 square feet, 85 or newer, and it's crazy to think that 85 or newer is basically saying anything that's almost 40 years or younger at this
Yeah.
point is kind of a wild thing to say. So, about 40 years or newer, on about an acre of land, about 1,200 square feet, and then past that. So, okay, you've kind of identified your general. Uh, avatar, like you said, of what you're kind of looking at. Now let's kind of get into some issues that you look at when you see these things. Is obviously, you could see one that just checks, has an acre, 1,200 square feet. But obviously there's kind of a bottom end of saying, okay, this is, it has four walls and a roof, but that's it. There's a point at which you're not going to take it on. And obviously, we probably don't care too much about something already being too nice. That's just more of a numbers game.
Yeah.
So what are some things if you go in, if I brought you one day, what are some things that saying, okay, here's kind of, what I would do, what I wouldn't do for people maybe trying to like get into this or, think, okay, is this for me? What are some things of saying, hey, here's the bottom end of stuff that, you really shouldn't touch, walk away. It's not going to be worth your time, effort, and money and the return you're going to get if something like this is an issue. And what some things that maybe people think are a huge issue that maybe aren't as bad with the mobile home, if there are such a thing.
Well, asking me that kind of question is interesting, because of my construction background. So there's really nothing that I can see that I feel can't be remedied. So the answer to your question is really dependent on your experience level. If you're brand new and you don't know much about construction and you're relying on your contractors to give you good pricing and tell you what needs to be done, which there's a lot of those types of people out there, and there's nothing wrong with it. You just have to be cautious, I think. You know, there's nothing that I'm going to shy away from, and I'll give you an example. Last year, I bought a mobile home on land at a really good price. A guy was about to lose it to a tax sale, and this thing was falling apart. I mean, falling apart. Tree had hit the roof. The roof had two tarps on it. All the siding was bad. Inside was it was disgusting, uninhabitable place. And most of the people I brought over there to take a look at it, they were all like, you should scrap this. This needs to be torn down. We put a new home there. And it was something that I kicked around for a little while. But for myself, what it really boiled down to was the fact that, I know that it can be fixed, and it was a lot of work. It was a $65,000 rehab. And a new home of that size, I was looking at 140 plus to be able to get something. And then, waiting on that mobile home was going to take, several months for it to finally arrive and everything like that. And, what I really considered was how many jobs I was going to be providing by fixing that pile of junk. And it really was. And we did, an amazing job on it. No stone got left unturned. It was the first time I've ever actually like gutted a place and started everything new. And we got the rehab done in half the time it would have taken for the new home. I saved the cost of scrapping the old home, and I kept a lot of people busy, and I was really happy to be able to put that kind of effort into it and keep my network busy and happy and productive, while at the same time kind of proving the naysayers wrong in the sense of, you should tear this down and replace it. I'm really, really happy about how that turned out, but I wouldn't suggest very many people do that. I kind of have an advantage being in construction for 15 years, not only swinging the hammer but running the jobs before I ever started in real estate. So for me, the shape of the mobile home when we buy it, on business terms, it's still a math problem to me. Am I getting the home at the right price to make it worth putting in that kind of effort? And I got it for the right price to put in that kind of effort. But for new people, there are lots and lots of these mobile homes that, really just need, some drywall repair, paint, carpet, trim, and some upgraded fixtures. I would say that the majority of the flips that I do fit that mold. One thing you kind of have to plan on is I almost always have to do a roof. Mobile homes typically are built with what they call a 20-year roof instead of a 30-year roof. So even mobile homes built in the early 2000s are likely aged out of the roof. So, if you can swallow that pill and find a good roofer, everything else above and beyond that in a home that is built in 2000 or later is usually really, really simple stuff. Um, One of the cool things about mobile homes, as far as replacing fixtures, is a lot of times they are the way that they're installed with today's PEX plumbing. That's the red and the red and the white plumbing pipes. When you make a connection to a shower faucet, the handle where you turn it on and off, in that type of home, it's a unscrew the old one, screw the new one on, and you're done. It's a super simple process most of the time. So it's, upgrading those fixtures is not terribly expensive. And anything that you get from Home Depot or Lowe's or some other supply house is likely going to be an upgrade versus what you took out of that mobile home. So it's really easy to upgrade your fixtures. And the electrical wires are still electrical wires. The lights hook up the same. We can use the same lights that we use in regular single family flips on these mobile homes, and they look great. So it really just depends on your experience level. Do you have confidence in yourself if you're looking at something that looks like a lot of work? And do you have the support behind you to be able to actually get that work done?
Yeah, no, those are great points. I remember, speaking from my own experience, I had to learn how to solder when I replaced the mixing valve in my house, which I guess is a good skill to have. But yeah, thinking of things, in terms of them being, as simple or easier, I think is a really good point to bring up with mobile homes, just because, these things are built, more on a, kind of, it's a factory standard. The easier that the manufacturers can make these things to manufacture, the cheaper they can do it. The simpler the end product's going to be. Think about, automobiles. Everything is relatively standardized for that exact same reason. And then the
They're
other
doing that in
manufacturing
single
process.
family homes now.
Yeah.
So in my area, at least, like I'm seeing single family homes that are from these local builders. The walls are now starting to arrive pre-assembled, on delivery trucks. So you're not seeing as much of the carpenters around here starting from scratch and building walls from scratch. They're actually placing the walls where they go now. I've seen that several times. So, is that a manufactured home when it comes down to it?
Yeah.
Like it really is the same stuff. They just get to build a smaller one that can be brought out on a trailer, and the process is relatively the same, I think.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing you bring that up. There's a guy 2 houses down from me that's adding a second story to his house. Everything's prefab. They brought in
Mhm.
every single thing, between the trusses for the roof were all prefabbed offsite, the walls, everything. I mean, it's you hear a lot of hammers and stuff, but not a whole lot of saws, which is kind
Yeah.
of the interesting dynamic. And as a little bit of a history lesson, I mean, it's kind of interesting that the way that houses were done, used to be able to order out of literally the Sears Roebuck catalog. You could order a manufactured home that they would cut everything and ship it to you, and you basically just assembled it on site.
Yeah.
There were a lot of those in parts of Tallahassee. There was, I guess, the Sears salesman was doing real well in that area, and there was a lot of Sears and Roebuck houses. But kind of going in, you brought up roofs being a big issue, and especially in Florida. Roofs are, we even just had legislation about roofs. It's, roofs are always a big topic in Florida.
Yeah.
Now with mobile homes, is there anything specific? You mentioned they're typically a 20-year roof standard. Is there anything specific that people need to watch out for past just, maybe having a good inspector that knows, what to look out for on these things, or anything else like that? Or is it kind of just a standardized, look at it. It's, going to be X, because obviously it's going to be one of the more expensive items that can be, looked at from a rehab point of view.
Well, there's definitely a few things that you want to be on the lookout for. So, first and foremost, if you're looking to flip a mobile home on land, the number one thing I believe you want to verify is whether or not the home has been set there new. That is crucially important for flipping. They are very, very difficult to finance if somebody has moved a mobile home from a previous spot onto a new lot. Okay. So that's number one, because that'll kill my deal immediately, or at least the discount that I'm going to get is going to be, worthy of me trying to basically find a cash buyer when it comes to sell it. So that's number one. There's a retiring the title process, which is, at least in my area, is pretty simple. You've got a lot, which is real property, and then you've got a mobile home with titles that is considered personal property.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually retire those titles into the land where the whole kit and caboodle becomes real property. And when you have a mobile home on land that is considered all real property, the financing process for the end buyer, whether it's FHA, VA, USDA, conventional, like it makes that process so much simpler.
So you're a fan of retiring titles?
Every single time. Yeah. The next thing is the roof. What's interesting about that is I encourage everybody to have a great, dependable roofer that does good work that you can depend on, that only does roofs, not a guy that can do roofs, but a guy that only does roofs. And I say that because there are some areas in Florida, and I know Georgia has some areas as well, where the mobile home itself falls under DOT regulations. That's Department of Transportation. So, if you go to the county and you say, "Hey, I've got a mobile home that needs a roof. Do I need a permit for this?" The county is going to tell you yes, and they're going to be happy to give you a permit. But the truth is that some of these counties don't actually require roofing permits for mobile home roofs because the mobile home itself falls under DOT regulations rather than county building code. Okay. So having a roofer that does good work and can do it correctly is the number one thing, because if you have a county in which you're under DOT regulations, you don't have to pull a permit, and that obviously saves time and at least a little bit of money.
Yeah.
So that's kind of something that I look at if I'm in a new county. Do the mobile homes fall under DOT regulations? And then the next thing after that is going to be, what is my plumbing made out of? So in a lot of older homes, and definitely a lot of older mobile homes, you have what is called polybutylene plumbing. And that is very easy to spot because it's gray. All of it is gray. And that plumbing is, it's garbage. It will fail, and no insurance companies are insuring homes with polybutylene plumbing. So if you see a mobile home that has polybutylene plumbing, you're going to get a repipe right off the rip. The good news is repipes are less expensive when you make the right connections with the right plumber, because everything is super accessible. So, if you repipe a regular single family home, you got a plumber crawling around a hot attic all day, repiping this stuff through the walls, and it is hot, sweaty work. And I'm not saying it's not hot and sweaty in Florida underneath the home, but being underneath the home is way better than being above the home. So it's really easy to access. It's really easy to replace. And I've found that when you have the right conversation with your plumber, you can definitely get it for the right price, get a good repipe for the right price. Everything comes up through the floor, and that doesn't change. So it's that's the next thing. And then I would say the following thing after that is the foundation. So in Florida, we got to strap everything to the ground because hurricanes have a tendency to mess things up. But if you're looking at a 1980s mobile home and it's strapped to the ground, it's already been through it. It's already been through the storms for the last 30, 40 years. So, they're already usually strapped down pretty good. But in 2004, they upgraded the tie down code, where if you've got a mobile home before 2004 that has not been through what's called a retrofit, you will likely have to do that when you sell. So having a good foundation guy, and that's usually a mobile home mover, if you're not sure where to look, find a mobile home mover, because they know all about those foundations and they can come level up the mobile home and add in the things that are missing. And I've got some great resources for that. So it's those are the main things I look at. Everything else is stuff you'll see in every other home. Is the AC good? Is the electrical panel insurable? Because they use a lot of the uninsurable electrical panels like you'll see in other homes. Everything else after that is pretty gravy, honestly.
Yeah, so it's pretty so with the exception of roofs being, having a little bit of an issue between permitting between Department of Transportation, kind of vessel status and, real property with the county, foundation, hurricane tie down type stuff, which are kind of, I would say, really only two places where you need to have a specialized set of eyes for these things. I mean, an electrician's going to probably be an electrician, looking at electrical work. Plumber's going to be a plumber. AC guy's going to be AC. But a foundation guy is going to be different from slab on grade. You're going to want to have a guy familiar with, mobile homes specifically, and then a roofer that understands the difference in permitting between Department of Transportation and mobile home stuff. So I think the good thing, which I'd like to get across to people, is that, past just kind of those two main things, everything you're looking at in a single family home kind of translates. You're going to Home Depot to get the same drywall, to get the same electrical, to do all these same kind of things. It's just a matter of looking at, a few things that are going to be unique for it and making sure that the numbers obviously work to whatever your avatar of these properties are. But it's not as much of a mystery on needing to have as many specialized connections or thought processes. This stuff is, it's real estate at the end of the day, just maybe, a different form factor, if you will, but people still need somewhere to live. It's still got to make sense for the numbers. And, with the exception, like you said, of kind of the more two specialized aspects, and obviously, things can kind of change if you're focused on flipping these things, you get it ready to sell. If you were interested in doing more, towards the renting and everything else like that, yeah, maybe there's some things down the road that you need to focus on. But I think that's kind of a good, kind of way to look at it from the time that we have right now, of getting the idea of general saying, hey, here's a little bit of a demystifying of it. Here's some of the more specialized stuff. Here's what it can do for you and what it is and what it isn't. Now, you are going to be teaching a class coming up here in a few weeks, and I'd like to give you a chance to give some information on that, because we're kind of coming up on the end of this. So if people want to get in touch with you, if they would like to learn more, about your processes and everything, how can they get in touch with you on that?
Cool. Well, I think the best way is just shoot me an email with a phone number. My email is markbracy1. That's MARC, B as in boy, RACY1 @gmail.com. Like I said, I'm an open book. So if anybody has questions, I'm happy to help in any way that I can. You can see a lot of what we do on Facebook. It's facebook.com/pipeline financial. Lots of cool videos there. The video I was telling, or the property I was telling you about that was falling in on itself, we have a cool video there that shows the whole, before and after on that. And then a good friend of mine, Adrian Smood with Lifestyle REI, and we are teaching a class called Cashing In on Mobile Homes in Tampa, Florida, October the 8th and 9th. That one is, we're opening the book. We don't upsell any courses or anything like that. We're opening up the entire process from A to Z. I'm going to do it from A to Z.
So great. So it looks like, with the exception of a few things of, understanding that, there really is a big difference in, roofing with needing to have someone that understands the differences between having Department of Transportation specified roofs to county specified roofs and what the differences are on that. And then also someone for foundations, because obviously there's a difference between slab on grade, stick houses, and these things, with hurricane straps and stuff like that. So, with the exception of having kind of those two sets of specialized eyes looking at these things, everywhere else you can just go to Home Depot basically. Same light switches,
Mhm.
electrical, insulation, 2x4 is a 2x4, and everything else like that is going to be relatively similar. So if you understand, single family real estate or real estate in general, a lot of that stuff transfers over. There's not a whole lot of kind of, doctorate level stuff that you really need to have going on with mobile homes. And I would
Yeah.
say for the most part, it is a more simplified version of, traditional real estate in general. Is that kind of a good, summation of, what you kind of look at when you go into these things?
Yeah, it's pretty good. There's a couple of items that you would need from a specialized supply house. So if you're going to do this, you should probably look and see, where your closest mobile home supply store is. Um, but there's a lot of great stuff that you can get off the internet too. Specialized parts here and there, for example, like chimney flue. Chimney for the top of the mobile homes usually made out of stainless steel fire grade stuff, and that usually has to be something that we have to order off the internet, but it's pretty easy. And you'll mainly need the mobile home supply house for doors.
Okay.
The doors are thinner, um, but the most of the cheap like lock sets and whatnot can be conformed to a regular house and also actually be manipulated for a mobile home door. If you see, like they don't have those locks like inset on the door, so the cheap gatehouse locks actually come apart where they don't have to be mortised into the door. They work for mobile homes and regular single family home doors. So little nuances like that for sure, but for the most part, yeah, you've hit the nail on the head.
Great, awesome. So, to kind of bring this in for a landing, I know you're going to be teaching a class coming up, or if people want to get in touch with you and learn more about, what you have going on, I'm sure you'd love to get in touch with people. So, tell us a little bit about what you have going on. How do people get in touch with you and the like?
Cool. Well, my friend Adrian Smoot and I were teaching a class called Cashing In on Mobile Homes. That's October 8th and 9th. It's in person and online through Zoom. In person, it's going to be in Tampa, Florida. He has a whole different flavor of mobile homes than I do, so we cover an amazing amount of content on what to do with my style of mobile homes for flipping and selling retail. And then he covers the side where, all of the other mobile homes that don't fit that mold, old single wides on land and things that I might look away from for a retail flip. And if you want information on the class, go to Adrian's website. It's lifestyle-rei.com. And there's an events tab at the top. And if you click on that, you'll go straight to the information for cashing in on mobile homes. I'm easy to find. My company is Pipeline Financial Solutions. I'm on Facebook. It's facebook.com/pipeline financial. You'll see all about what I do in the retail space on mobile homes, including that one I was telling you about that was like falling in on itself, and we rebuilt the whole thing. Like there's a really cool video showing the before and after progress on that. It's really amazing to watch. And then just to reach out to me personally, shoot me an email. It's markbracy1@gmail.com. It's MARC B as in boy, RACY, the number one @gmail.com. And I'm happy to help any way that I can. But I definitely encourage everybody to check out that class that we're teaching, because it's going to include everything. We're not selling a course. We're actually showing everybody step by step with paperwork, our processes, what I'm looking for, all the little nuances of things that you may not know that you need to know about mobile homes. But once you actually understand, it becomes very simple. And we did this class last year over one day. And we decided to make it 2 days this year just because we were able to go over a lot more of our processes that way. But we've had a few students from that class already seeing good success, including one that said they've done 6 mobile home flips since our class, and I'm really happy to hear about that. And we're available after that to help guide you and answer questions and make sure that you're making good, safe decisions, because that's what it's really all about. We all want to have fun and make things nice and sell property, but we got to make sure that we're doing it in a smart, safe, financially responsible way, that I think is going to be even more important in today's changing market. There's a totally different way that I'm evaluating mobile homes right now than I was just last year. So understanding how I'm looking at them and picking mobile homes to flip is going to be pretty important, I think. So it's definitely worth your time and dime to get out there and see what we're doing.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for being on with us today. If you are interested in this, I have, I was at the original class that y'all taught, and it was some great information. So, we always like to encourage people, if you'd like to learn more about this stuff, that's why we have people like this on here, especially if they have some type of continuing education on there. So, I hope everyone learned something from this today. Mark, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today. Again, my name's Alex Perny. This is the Alternative Investing Advantage podcast. Thank you for joining.
Thank you for tuning in to the Alternative Investing Advantage podcast. Tune in next week for more investing tips and strategies.
Want to hear more episodes of the Alternative Investing Advantage? Search podcast at advantaira.com and subscribe.